Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you an OP Moon Druid build guide for Baldur's Gate 3. This is great for Halson, or really if you're playing as a Druid yourself, this is great for that. So Halson is kind of a Druid by heart, so we're going to obviously keep that consistent. Now for this build, we're going to be taking 2 extra multi-classes, and I will get into that near the end of this video. We're going to start as the Druid, but you could also start as Sorcerer or War Cleric, but I think that this is best done as full level 10 Druid and then multi-class to get some bonuses. For our cantrips, Chalet is a great one. That's kind of like a main damage cantrip that we got, but Thorn Whip's good too because you can pull enemies off of cliffs, which is kind of interesting if you got the setup for it. And for our abilities, now this is where things get quite interesting because we have the dexterity gloves on right now, so we can safely dump dexterity. It's going to be at a solid 18, doesn't show it there, but I'm using the dexterity gloves. If you're not using them, don't dump your dexterity, but we're going to go with something like this. I like to have Constitution at 17, because Constitution is going to help if we're knocked out of wild shape. The Druid's really about having that wild shape, so we want to have that as high as possible. We'll take our Wisdom up to 16 there. And we can keep the strength relatively high. We could also dump strength and take the strength potions. I think that that's a pretty good use of our options there, but something like that works great. If you're the face of your party, higher charisma is obviously a better option here, but we can go with something like that. If we weren't dropping dexterity, we would drop our strength down to probably 10, put the dexterity as high as we can, keep our charisma low. So something like that. Just depends where you're at in the game. You should definitely get the charisma gloves as well as strength gloves, because that allows you to have a lot of freedom in how you run your build. So with Halson here, I got medium armor on. So we get to choose our circle at level 2. So we're obviously going Circle of the Moon there. That is the Moon Druid build. So with this, we get Lunar Men, so expend spell slots to regain hit points and wild shape. We get our wild shape forms, which will advance as we go further into this. We also get the bear shape. The shape of a polar bear can goad enemies into attacking it. Starting health of 30 hit points with increases every 2 Druid levels. So you might be wondering why we're missing out on the extra Druid levels, but you're going to see that come the end of this video. So for our spells in the spell book, I personally think that it's good to have some type of healing. So I like Healing Word just for the distance healing, even though it's not as strong. This can bring enemies back if they get knocked down, so that's super useful. Entangle can be pretty good. Create a vine surface, slowing creatures down, possibly entangling them as a concentration. Ice Knife can be pretty good too, just for cold damage. But I think that Long Strider, if you don't have someone that has it on your party, can be great. Increases a creature's movement by 3 meters, and it's a ritual spell, so you can just put that on, and it lasts till long rest. So very useful. Speak with Animals if you don't already have it, but you probably have that. For our final spell, I think Fog Cloud can be pretty nice. If you're built for it, it can be great, but also just crowd control is nice to have. Thunderwave is not meant for damage. This is meant for just knocking people off of cliffs. So you do have some options there for crowd control and just overall utility. We're not going to be casting spells often as a Moon Druid. That's more so a land Druid if you go that route. But for our spells here, we get some more options. We get our level 2 spells, so we can take off a few of the ones that we won't be using. I really like Spike Growth. Places sharp shape a piece of ground into hard spikes. We can upcast this and it can really clear out enemies, so that's a very useful one. Heat Metal is good if we're going to be using if we're going to be staying out of our form, because this requires concentration as well. Most of these are concentrations. Like Flaming Spear can be good too, just for holding aggro, because you pull up a spear and enemies will attack it. So something like that would be Gust of Wind can be kind of nice too, but we'll go with something like that. Doesn't really matter too much because we're going to be spending most of our time in more wild shape form. So going into Druid level 4, this is when we get our feat, and you're going to see something interesting here. So we get our Deep Wrath form here, so this is another type of form we can take, as well as a Raven. For our cantrip, Guidance can be nice. Produce Flame. This can be okay because you can throw the flame as well. It deals 1d8 fire damage, so not the best, but it is something. We'll take Guidance, even though this is a concentration. There's a lot of concentrations that are on here. Maybe Produce Flame, just for the utility that it brings. Now, our next level 2 spell that we'll take. Dark Vision can be kind of nice, just for the ability to have that in the cloud, if we take the cloud. So, we take Fog Cloud, take Dark Vision as well. Enhanced ability can be pretty decent. we'll just take this for its utility, or Moonbeam can be pretty good too, so maybe we'll take Moonbeam. But again, we're not going to be casting too much. Now for our feat, what's nice is Tavern Brawler is quite overpowered as it is, but it also works in our wild shape form. So this adds our strength modifier to damage rolls and attack rolls. I think it is a little bit glitched out, but it does work on the Moon Druid. And we get to take our Constitution up to give us that nice rounded off +4 concentration checks. That's useful because we do need to have that. We need to hold concentration later on in the game. And that's the reason that we'll be taking the Sorcerer to get some proficiency in saves, as well as the War Cleric. So into level 5, we get Wild Strike. You can make an additional attack after making an unarmed strike while in wild shape. So this allows us to get some extra attacks in, and as we get a little bit further, you're going to see how this gets pretty wild. So plant growth is a great crowd control, and that's kind of what we're focusing on whenever we are outside of our wild shape form, is just a bit of crowd control. So this can be a great one. Doesn't require concentration, so that's really important. And then also Sleet Storm can be nice. It interrupts the concentration of spell casters, creates ice surface. Call Lightning can be okay, but that's more so if we're going for like a land druid. Enhance your name to shine like the sun. Yeah, it's okay. I think Sleet Storm can be good just for the utility that it brings. So we'll go with that for our level 5 at druid. Now this build really comes together. Like, druids are pretty good all around because you're just going to be going into wild shape quite often, and that just brings a lot of utility. We get wild shape panther, but we also get the owl bear, which is really powerful. We'll get into that as why. So take the shape of an owl bear that can rupture the ground and become enraged. So we're going to be doing some WWE style attacks with this. So our extra spell that we can take, it's really up to you what you need. Again, spells aren't super important because we're going to be in wild shape most of the time. Now, some people prefer to take 10 levels of, or 12 levels of druid just to increase the health, but I'll be getting into why we are going to take advantage of something else. So for our level 4 spells, Conjure Woodland Being is incredibly powerful. I think what's nice about this is it has lots of utility that works alongside of us. So I would take that one. Conjure Minor Elemental can be great too. So we'll take both of those. Dominate Beast is nice. Ice Storm can be good. We'll take probably, like, Wall of Fire is actually pretty good too. It requires concentration, but actually no, we'll swap out Wall of Fire and we'll put Ice Storm because this doesn't require concentration. Grasping Vine can be decent, draws enemies towards the area that you choose. Confuse can be nice, but again, another concentration, so we'll go with that there. And Druid level 8, this is where we get our increased, or we get another action with a Saber-Tooth Tiger, can shred armor and regenerate health points. So it's a pretty nice option just to have. For our next ability improve, or for our next feat, we can have, I like Alert, gives you a +5 to initiative. Now what's nice about this is, even when we're in wild shape, our initiative's set at the very beginning of the battle. This is better. Ability improvement, you go into your wild shape and you lose some of that. Alert, we keep no matter what. So this can be really great, and an increase to initiative is super important because we can go into our wild shape and just start the battle off on the right foot without getting attacked, without being in our wild shape form. So that, or you could take ability improvement, bump your wisdom up to 18. Depending on your gear, it's entirely up to you. Now, Druid level 9, this is when we're almost going to be switching, and the nice thing is we're taking 2 classes that are full spellcasters, so we don't lose out on any of our feats. So we'll take off the Minor Elemental, and we'll bring on a Conjure Elemental because this is really powerful. I like Insect Plague. This just helps out with overall utility. It makes difficult terrain, so you can really set up some points of just difficulty for the enemies to get to your team with. Mass Cure Wounds is also really great, so this works on nearby allies. It's good just to have healing spells. We're typically going to be in wild shape form, but once we're out of it, healing is kind of important. So Druid level 10, this is where everything all comes together. So we get our class feature here of the improved Wild Strike. So we make 2 additional attacks after making an unarmed strike. We're going to actually take this up to 4 attacks total, so I'll show you how in a moment here. For our cantrip, guidance, I guess, doesn't really matter too much. We had to choose another spell here, which it's entirely up to you. We already got pretty much what we want with our elementals and the woodland being. You can take Wall of Fire just for that ability to set up some fire damage. At Druid level 11, this doesn't really add a whole lot extra. We get our level 6 spells, which are nice, but we can add in the War Cleric. Now, the War Cleric, we get, we can take Resistance Sacred Flame. I like to have Blade Ward as a pretty nice, just an optional thing to reduce the damage from some attacks that you may be taking. You can also take this to increase your advantage on intimidation and performance checks, but something like that, we're going to be taking the War Domain. So we get War Priest. When you make an unarmed or weapon attack, you can spend a War Priest strike to make an additional attack as a bonus action. So this can take us up to 4 attacks. So that's really great because we got the 3 from our wild shape, and it counts as an unarmed strike, so that gives us an extra attack. We already have the Shield of Faith, but this is just nice just to have as a concentration. Divine Favor for the extra damage. Deity, this can be entirely up to you, but I always go with Garl Glitter Gold, our homie. I just think it's a funny one to go with. Tear is also kind of cool. But for our prepared spells from level 1 Cleric, we're going to take Guiding Bolt just for the nice ability to have that. We have Healing Word as a bonus action here, so we're going to take that. Inflict Wounds, purify a creature with necrotic energy flowing from your hands. It's okay. Sanctuary is great. You and ally cannot be targeted until you attack or harm a creature. You can take a damage from area effect spells. This is nice to have as a bonus action, honestly, and that's what makes this build really powerful. You can take Bless as another concentration, but I wouldn't fully recommend that. Inflict Wounds can be nice if you want some necrotic damage, or create or destroy water can be good too. Just set up anyone else on your team. So something like that. Bless is nice. It's entirely your choice. I like Command too, but we'll go with that. And then for our final level, this is where it gets really interesting. So Cleric level 2 doesn't give us much. We get the Guided Strike, which gives us a +10 bonus to our attack roll with a Channel Divinity charge, but we only get 1 of those, so that's not really fantastic. What we're going to do is we're going to add in a level of Sorcerer, and for this, we're going to be going... You get to choose your subclass at level 1 Sorcerer, which is really nice. For our... We're going to be... Oh, we already have that. We're going to take Firebolt. Shocking Grasp can be okay to have. I just don't like True Strike. Minor Illusion is nice too, because you can pull enemies all together into one spot. And if you got someone else that can drop a Fireball, that's perfect. Something like that. Bone Chill is good. Prevents it from getting healing. You can also take Friends if you're more of the face of your party, but this is for Halson, so. For our spells, Magic Missile is really great. It doesn't scale off of Intel, or it doesn't really scale much at all, so you can use it pretty freely without worrying. But what we're going to be looking at is Shield. Shield is really nice. When you're about to get hit with an enemy, you increase your armor class by 5. You take no damage from Magic Missile. Pretty nice. Mage Armor can be good if you're going without any type of armor, but we're going to go with Shield here. So there's a lot of different options. I think Shield and Magic Missile is just nice utility to have. Now, this is where things get fun. We get Draconic Bloodline, so this gives us a nice magic, increases your hit points by 1 for each Sorcerer level. It's not a huge deal, it just gives 1 extra heal. But when you're not wearing armor, your base armor class is 13. Dragon Ancestor, we're going to go with the White Dragon, because this gives us Armor of Agathis, which is very, very powerful. So you gain 5 temporary health points and 5 cold damage on any enemy that hits you with a melee attack, lasts until long rest. Now what's nice about this is you can upcast this as well, so this gets quite good. The other options aren't as amazing. The White Dragon's actually great. Like, this is very powerful, so we're taking that obviously. And then I don't like to add this, it's really up to you though, but yeah, Armor of Agathis makes this build come really powerful. So giving up 2 levels of Moon Druid to get everything that came with those last 2 classes, I would say is a net positive. So we actually have a lot of spells here. And getting into the gear, gear is not incredibly important since we're going to be in wild shape. I like the Helm of Baldur, so 2 health points at the beginning of every turn, +1 to armor class and saving throws. So our armor class is 21. That's really great. So if we get knocked out of wild shape, we're set. Cloak of Displacement at the beginning of the turn. Cloak activates, granting enemies disadvantage on attack rolls to target the wearer. So just overall flat out damage reduction. Medium armor, this isn't ideal, but I got this so it adds your full dexterity modifier to your armor class, so you can pump the dexterity up. I am using the dexterity gauntlets, gives you +1 attack. These 2 items kind of work together pretty well. Space Hunt Boots, which is great, gives you Dimension Door, so it takes you and an ally somewhere, so you can just warp around. Super useful as a druid if you need to get placement. Surgeon Subjugate Amulet gives you, when scoring a critical hit, you can paralyze. This is also can be swapped out for really anything. Spell Crux Amulet's nice to get the spell slot restoration, so that can be really useful too, which gives you up to a level 6 spell slot. I think that might even be the better one. I'm also using Killer Sweetheart, which gives you your attack roll will be a critical hit if you knock out an enemy. And Ring of Jumping, just give us a +3 jump. Now, the Gaunter Mail, someone should be using this at your party at all times, because it gives us, I'll get out of that there. It gives us Celestial Haste, which gives us haste. Incredibly powerful. We definitely want that because the extra attack from that's very nice. It gives you light. And yeah, this is just good to have on. For weapons, I'm just using the Woe, not like the most optimal, but as a quarterstaff. Gives +1 to a spell save DC and attack spell attack rolls. When a creature is affected by your spell, fail any associated saving throws, you regain health points. Gives us Blight and Topple, and then our shield too, really nice, just to have that increased armor class when we're out of our wild shape form. But we're mostly going to be, this is what we're going to be doing, we're going to be popping down our Woodland Being. You can upcast this, but it doesn't really do anything, so I would just stick it at level 4. So the Woodland Being is nice because it gets Spike Growth, and this can just be super useful for crowd control. It gets Nature Step, allowing you to near allies in the area to travel with ease. So that prevents them from getting hit by difficult terrain. Can't be restrained. And resistance to poison damage. We get our attacks. They have Good Berry. They get Chalet as well. Strengthened Chalet if your Staff or Club becomes magical. So that's really nice just to have. And then while we're on the topic of summons, we also get Conjure Elemental, which is great. We can bring in a Water Myrmidon, and this is just nice to have around. Again, the more targets that you can kind of bounce everyone's attention around to, the better. But our really big thing as a druid is obviously our wild shape. And look at all these forms that we got. So you can have dinosaurs, air myrmidons. The myrmidons don't get bonuses from things until you get Tavern Brawler. And if you take on the War Cleric, you get proficiency in weapon attacks, which it uses a weapon. So you want that proficiency. You can't change its weapon out, but we got a nice 18 armor class, which is pretty good. What's nice about this is having that War Cleric allows you to just deal more flat out damage. So we got a +11 total bonus to our damage rolls, gives us 8 to 13, which is kind of nice to have. And then obviously the different spells that we get alongside this. So that's really great, but I think that the biggest thing that you have to be focusing on whenever you're in wild shape is going into the Owlbear form, wherever it is here, Owlbear form. I don't have the ability to change right at the moment, but you'd be going into Owlbear form and doing lots of pounce attacks. That's just the maximum amount of damage you can deal. So yeah, this is a pretty powerful build for the Moon Druid or Halson in Baldur's Gate 3. Hope you found this video useful, and if you did, please hit that subscribe button below. Really appreciate it, and I'll see you all in the next video.